Hello and welcome to the Tune Under Pod. We are the only dedicated Newcastle United podcast in the Southern Hemisphere. I'm Jack, and with me today is Craig. How are you, Craig?
Good, mate, yourself?
Yeah, good. You've had a bit of an interesting day there. I've heard.
Normal day, to be honest. Bit of running with wildlife, storm, cyclone, and high humidity. Typical day.
Yeah. Sounds about right. But it wasn't just any. It's not just any wildlife you get up there, is it? What did you see today?
Literally opened the car door and there was a 4.5-foot cassowary stood about 2 feet away from me. Nearly shit myself.
And what exactly is a cassowary, just for the UK listeners?
Think of a modern day velociraptor with bright colours on its chin.
Yeah, and then the people you saw were kind of feeding them, which is probably the worst thing you can do, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's illegal apparently as well.
Yeah, you can't.
Idiots.
Classic. And we've also got Dimmy. How are you, Dimmy?
Very good, Jack. How are you?
I'm good. Do either of you know what day it is? It's kind of that in-between bit between Christmas and New Year, isn't it? Where the days all merge into one.
No clue what day it is. Only reason we know because we're doing the pod tonight on a Tuesday. That's the only reason I know it's a Tuesday. Is it a Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday.
I think it's a Tuesday. It's who knows? It's just everyone's just in kind of food and drink comas, aren't they? I think. And there's also football on like kind of every morning or sometimes in the middle of the night as well now. So it's like, what is going on? It's just crazy, isn't it? So today we're here to talk about the Man United game. That was on this morning, Australia time. Really, really good game. Really interesting game. We're going to talk about that first, and then in part two we'll have a look potentially to the Everton game if we think that's going to happen, or depending on what happens with COVID. So the Man United game. So I don't know about you boys, but I've sort of got increasingly more annoyed about this through the day that we didn't win. So it was about 12 hours ago, the game. And then we've had the whole day here in Australia. And I still feel proud of the players. I feel like they did a really good, strong effort in this game. But we should have won. We were so close, and we so deserved it. So I don't know Craig, what are your initial reflections on the match and the result? How did you think it went?
When the final whistle went, I thought, this kind of feels like a loss. Even though we got a point against Man United, it's nothing to be sniffed at these days anyway. But we were so good and they were so poor that it did feel like a bit of a loss. I was devastated for the boys, to be honest. They put in such a shift, and they deserved that win more than any other game this season.
It felt a little bit like the Norwich game. So obviously it was very different opposition, but it was just a game that we had, and we were so close, and we deserved it so much, and they put in such a massive effort and a massive performance. Really something to be proud of. But then, yeah, we just couldn't get it over the line. Craig, the atmosphere in the stadium just sounded phenomenal through the TV.
It was bouncing, wasn't it? It was wicked. I would love to have been there. That's the one thing we all agree on that we miss from being over here is that electric atmosphere that only St James's Park can bring on nights like that. It would have been glorious.
The Sports Direct signs were gone. It was under the lights, nighttime game. Bit of rain going around. It looked pretty cold. Mm-hmm. But yeah, pretty special atmosphere, I think, and that seems to be the consensus on Twitter as well. Dimmy, what's your kind of initial reflections on the match and the result?
Yeah, well, frustration, like you said, is probably one of the first things that comes to mind. I mean, I got to say it's probably their best performance of the season, probably clearly our best performance of the season. Obviously, definitely the best performance under Eddie. And the fact we put that much effort in, we piled on the pressure late. They really didn't create much. Cavani had a couple of chances and he buried one of them, unfortunately. It was sort of hard to take from that perspective because I didn't think Man United deserved anything from the game. They were absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. And with a bit of luck, which unfortunately this year we haven't seemed to have, we've seemed to have used it all with good old Stevie Bruce the last couple of years. We've used all our lucky charms and our lucky goals. But yeah, that's all was lacking. The performance was sensational, and you couldn't fault the effort from the boys.
And when we scored that goal, it didn't feel like the Liverpool game where you just knew that they were just going to come back and score 3 or 4 goals. Man United were really not showing anything, were they, in the first half or the second half?
No, absolutely nothing. They, as I said, I don't think Dubravka had many saves to make, if any saves, to be honest. They had a couple of shots maybe wide. There was one from Rashford in the second half that was a speculative shot from about 40 yards. But yeah, that was terrible, as I said. I mean, Ronaldo was too busy complaining to the referee and complaining to his teammates about not getting the ball early. The only one I thought was potentially going to create something was Bruno Fernandes, and it turned out he was the one who set up the goal for the equaliser. He was dropping a bit deeper in the second half, and he started to look a little bit more dangerous, getting the ball wide to Sancho. Was causing us a little bit of problems down the left, but yeah, they were absolutely dog shite. Pardon the pun. They were awful. So that's what makes it even harder to take. If you said before the game, we said 1-1 draw, would you take it? We said absolutely, but the way the game panned out, no, it was 2 points dropped, unfortunately, for us.
You agree with that, Craig?
I do, yeah. I think we all agreed before the game in the WhatsApp chat that we'd all take a point before, but literally Dimmy's just said there, it's 2 points dropped. That chance just after the second half where Kraft put that low cross in to St. Maximin, and it was the weakest of touches. Whether he was expecting it or not, he should be getting more on the end of that. Few inches the other side, it's going past the Bracker anyway. And it's just little chances like that where you're thinking, is this really going to be our downfall for the season? Because if you look at the likes of Murphy's, I think it was against Watford when he went 1-on-1 with the keeper, I think it was.
Yeah.
Chances like that, you've got to take. If you don't take them, that's the reason we're in the position we're in. But apart from that, that was the only chance where, you know what, we should have scored from, because it was a clear-cut chance. And everything else, I mean, if it wasn't for David De Gea, it would have been an embarrassing night for Man United. It really would have. We could have been looking at 3-4-5-1 scoreline. He kept them in that game like an absolute hero. That's why he's world-class keeper.
It's another game, isn't it? So you've mentioned that chance Murphy had against Watford. We had the Southampton game where they got the penalty right at the end. We had the Brentford game where Joelinton had that chance at the end. Then we had the Norwich game where our friend Kieran got himself sent off after 9 minutes. So it's definitely just felt like such an unlucky season. I don't know whether that's, I think we hope that these things even out over the course of a season, but we've had half a season now and we have had no luck whatsoever. I think with the VAR decisions as well, and we've lost 19 points from winning positions. So if you're going to keep doing that, partly that is our fault, of course, but there is a large element of luck I think that we've been missing, and we could have converted a couple of these draws into wins, especially, and the league table would be looking a lot different.
Yeah, even if you say there's 19 points dropped, even if you say half of those you pick up as wins, we're sitting at 12th, 13th, probably well clear of the relegation zone, comfortable looking up, but they're the small margins. I mean, the Watford, there's even the Wolves one, we lost 2-1. There was a chance for St. Maximin at 1-1 from about 6 or 7 yards that he hit right at the keeper. If he hit either side, he's the one knock on Maxi. His finishing is not clinical. He can score the wonder goal like he did this morning, but when you need him to take that one-on-one chance, he more often than not doesn't take that chance.
Just flipping back then to the initial team selection. So, yeah, you're right, Craig. We were in the group and we were saying we would definitely take a draw here. It's against Man United. They had all of these superstars. They brought Cavani and Sancho on at half-time. It was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? We didn't have a defender on the bench. So, obviously, we had the COVID and the injury issues, but my first reaction when I saw the team sheet was, can we borrow Phil Jones or something? Because he's obviously not going to get on for them. But if one of our defenders got injured, we were absolutely screwed. The team, it looked like, so we had Manquillo at left back and we had Kraft playing right back. We had Lascelles and Shah, and then we had Sean Longstaff coming in for I think it was Hayden who played the last game, or Willock, yeah. And then we had the settled front four, 3 or 4, which has been quite good. So what did you think about? There's probably not much else he could have done, Like we've obviously had injuries and COVID ripping through the squad. But Craig, what did you think about the team selection when you saw that team sheet?
When I seen Mankio at left back, I thought total opposite to his natural position. Not even on his natural side or anything. Ronaldo can favour that side, and if he sees him out of his natural, you're just going to tear him a new one. But I can't fault any of them from across the back four. Crafty was solid, and I'm probably one of Kraft's biggest critics, to be honest. But yeah, I think across the back four, they were very solid. Dubravka had 1 or 2 moments where we're thinking, Jesus, what are you doing? I know you have not much to do in this game, but come on, get your head in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the back four, I can't really say much. Maybe the goal we conceded. Lascelles' positioning could have been better, but it was a great performance from the back four.
It's funny you mentioned Kraft there, because I saw some stats for him. So he definitely had his best game for Newcastle, and he was in his favourite position. But he won 8 out of 11 duels, 5 tackles won, which was the most in the match, 4 clearances, 2 interceptions, 1 block, and 1 chance created. So he's basically gone there and put in a pretty all-round really good performance at right back, which is good to see, because it was, I think a lot of us were questioning whether we would get that from him. There's never been any worries about his desire or his work rate. It's just always been that quality. So for him to step in against Man United when there's literally nobody else to play, I think there's a lot to be commended there for Kraft. Dimmy, your thoughts on the team selection?
Yeah, like you said, probably not too many other options he could have gone with COVID and suspensions. Like Craig said, I thought definitely Kraft was fantastic on the right. It's probably the first game he's played proper right back for a while. He's been playing for some reason as a right-sided centre back when we were playing 5 at the back earlier in the season, but clearly, obviously, right back is his well favoured position. He looked pretty comfortable. Even Mankio at left back. I mean, second half Sancho gave him a few more issues than Greenwood did, but they were solid. And even Longstaff, I've been a big critic of Longstaff. I thought he's been pretty poor all season. I thought today he was fantastic. His energy was good. His pressing was good. Didn't give the ball away. I mean, Shelby's a big help for him because the pressure's not on him to carry the ball and make the pass. So, yeah, team selection wise, it was probably couldn't do much else. But in terms of the back four, like Craig said, they all did their job.
It seemed to have a good balance to it, didn't it, as well? And I think with Sean Longstaff, when he does play well, he is really a valuable player. He's really useful in the middle of the park there. Because he can contribute and he can get the ball moving forward a bit, and he just looked like he had that bit of confidence about him. So again, yeah, I don't think any of us would have expected to get these kind of performances from Kraft and Sean Longstaff. A word for Ryan Fraser as well. He's been really good lately. He's obviously worked with Eddie Howe before. He's been unlucky with some of the decisions he's had against him. Ronaldo lost his head. He could have been sent off. I don't know what was wrong with him, but he lost his rag a little bit, and he could have potentially been sent off for that. It was a kick towards Fraser, towards the ball. It was just a bit strange, wasn't it?
That had to be a red, surely. I mean, the way he went, the violent act that he went towards Fraser. I'm sure if it was the other way around, Ronaldo would have done about 10 somersaults and definitely the red card would have come out. But yeah, the vigor that he went and the aggressiveness, I thought just for that alone, not so much the injury that he caused to Fraser, he should have seen red. But because it's Ronaldo, it probably was never going to happen.
His body language was just horrendous for the whole game. So it's quite good. I was watching it with my father-in-law, and I said, we need to just stick somebody on him to wind him up and start just trying to get him annoyed, even more annoyed, because he looks like he's in that kind of mood where he wants to lash out a bit. So he's definitely a player that you can get at. And they were just completely out of sorts, weren't they, Man United? We had Chris Waddle on our commentary, and he was very, very upset with how Man United were playing. So he couldn't understand what was going on with that formation that was going on. So I think we probably caught them on a bad day for them, which again, it's just so frustrating and disappointing that we couldn't turn that into a win. So after 7 minutes, we got the goal. Craig, good goal.
Yeah, it was a high press. I think in the close just after the halfway line, and Sean Longstaff. He kind of got a little lucky deflection from the way the ball came through, but he controlled it well. Got his head up, ran with the ball, and he had a few options. I think he had Wilson just in front, maybe Joelinton to his right, but a little bit further wide onto the left, he seen St. Maximin. Pass him because I think he's had the most space and it was a good choice. And what I noticed about the goal as well is Wilson, he does a clever little run and takes one of the defenders away, and that allows St. Maximin to cut in. And then I think it's Varane and 50 Pence head, forgot his name. He just decides to walk, and he just almost scuffed his shot kind of because he slipped as he went to get it, and I think because it happened so quick, to hear he was flat-footed and he had no chance, and it went in the top corner, and Stadium went into raptures.
It was kind of a toe poke, wasn't it, in the end? So the way it worked was good because he has had chances like that before where he's kind of flushed it over the bar or but he just got his toe on the end of that, and it was a fantastic finish in the end. Dimmy, did you wake anyone in your house up with that celebration?
I was actually on my own this morning. I was actually on my own at home. So nobody, unless the neighbours heard me, nobody woke up. But yeah, quality finish. And sometimes that toe bash, even though we were taught as kids never toe bash the ball, sometimes that toe bash shot can catch keepers out. Like Craig said, De Gea was probably a little bit unexpected in his positioning, and Maxi slipped it past him. So it was quality finish, and obviously the celebrations were good. We went 1 up, but obviously we've been there before, and only scoring in the 7th minute, we thought it's a long 83 plus stoppage time to hold on. I thought 1's not enough. We need 2. We definitely need 2.
Yeah, and it's kind of been the story of the season, hasn't it? We've known that we've needed to score more than 1 goal to have any chance of winning the game, because we're usually going to make some kind of horrendous defensive cock up at some point, which is going to give them a goal. So we didn't actually do that today, which was really nice. But Dubravka did do his best towards the end to try and rectify that. That was getting a little bit dodgy there. I think for the rest of the first half, so Newcastle were the better team. I think we were definitely on top, and there could have been no complaints if we had scored more. One of the things that I really noticed was, I don't know if other people have picked up on this, but Jason Tindall on the sideline, he's up there constantly. So Eddie Howe is up there sort of directing, but Tindall seems to be really, really vocal. He's obviously Eddie's number 2. And he was a manager at Bournemouth. He took over at Bournemouth after Eddie Howe left them. So I don't know if that's something that either of you have sort of picked up on, just the amount of shouting he's doing. I haven't even seen Graham Jones since, I don't know whether he's taking it up in the stands or something or taking a back seat, but I've just really noticed that about Tindall. So have either of you picked up on that as well?
I noticed it a little bit more. I mean, most of the time the camera does focus on Eddie because he's the manager, obviously. But yeah, he's always there in shot. He's always animated. He's always doing something. And I remember on the first game against Brentford when Eddie had COVID, so he couldn't be there. He was very animated. Then remind me of Klopp a little, because he's always got some on. He's never sitting still. He's got ants in his pants or something. And it's great to see the enthusiasm, the energy, and that's obviously passing on to the rest of the players.
There seems to be a good double act. So they seem to. I know that people say that Eddie Howe's a little bit more reserved, and Tindall's kind of the main shouter and talker, and that seems to be a good combination that works for them. So long may that continue. But yeah, it's nice to see someone showing that passion and that desire on the touchline as well. So we got towards the end of the first half, and Callum Wilson got injured. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but this could potentially be a very serious problem, because he's our only striker basically. Newcastle have only won 2 of the 16 Premier League games that Wilson hasn't played in since he joined. So I think we already needed a striker in January. We might need 2 now. We definitely need 1 good striker who's going to come and fill that void, because I don't think there's any confirmation on this yet, but I think it might be a calf injury. It looked like.
Yeah.
And it was one of the. it was one of them where he went down when he hadn't been in a tackle or anything. McTominay hadn't touched him, I think, and he went down, and you could just tell it was bad straight away. He tried to kind of get up and carry on, but it wasn't happening, was it?
Nah, I think he done some turn, and he like I say, he hit the floor like a sack of shit. Just instant muscle pull, tear, whatever he's done. He tried to run it off. I think they were going to maybe give him a half time, but just wasn't going to be able to continue. Which is an absolute shame because I know he hasn't scored in the last few games also, but the shifts he's put in have been fantastic, and he will be missed in that squad purely based on his goal scoring ability because he's probably our most important person up there because he's the only natural finisher we've got.
Yeah, and we talked a few weeks ago about his importance in terms of his leadership skills as well. So this is something that we're going to have to try and plug that gap somehow. It was quite telling that Dwight Gale didn't come on until he came on later on, but he wasn't the replacement. So Jacob Murphy came on and St. Maximin went up front. So I think that kind of tells you what you need to know about Dwight Gale's place in the pecking order. I think he's definitely going to be out of the door if possible in January, or probably out the squad. He'll have to make way for a squad space, I think, for somebody. Into the second half then, so straight after half-time, we've already touched on this, but St. Maximin misses that really good chance. Really good work by Kraft on the right-hand side, flashes it across, and he just didn't get a connection. I don't know if he wasn't expecting it or if it was a hard, but he basically had 3/4 of the goal to aim at if he could been able to get that in. And I do think that would have been game over at that point. I don't think Man United were showing anything. I don't think they were up for it. And I think if we'd have got that goal, it's just another one of those fine margins moments in the season, isn't it? Where that could have been a really enjoyable sort of end to that game if he could have just got that goal.
Yeah, it was basically any meaningful touch, it was a goal because the pace was already on the cross. So he just had to get some sort of connection on it. And it's almost as if like you said, he didn't expect it. I think Varane was right in front of him. Maybe he thought Varane was going to cut it out, but the cross was perfect by Kraft. It's just a shame because De Gea was on the other side of the goals. So any touch, most of the goals were open. It was a tap. It was basically a tap in, and they're the small margins. I mean, if that's Callum Wilson, that's a goal. That's guaranteed goal. But unfortunately, in our team, the only other person who gets in those positions is Maxi, and Maxi can't finish like Callum. No one else puts themselves in that position to get that tap in finish. So it was a massive missed opportunity.
Fine margins, as you say, so close, but just couldn't get it on that occasion. But I still think we could have let that get to us. We could have gone into our shell a little bit. We didn't do that. I think we did drop back a little bit, as I think is natural, because the effort the players had put in as well, it's just such a monumental effort, and they must have been exhausted getting into the latter part of that second half. There was that time in the middle of the half where about 15 players seemed to get booked within the space of about 5 minutes. I don't know, the ref, I think he'd maybe tried to let a bit go early on, but then once he's given one yellow card, I can't remember who the first person to get booked was, but once he's done that, then kind of it opens the floodgates on the yellow cards a little bit, and it got a little bit scrappy there, which actually suited us at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets to 70 minutes, and Cavani scores, and it's kind of out of nothing, really. Like, they were pressing a little bit, but they weren't creating much. And, yeah, I don't know, what did you think about their goal, Craig?
I thought it was scrappy. It was poor positional play from Lascelles. I think he could have cut the cross out. He ran just too far ahead of Cavani. Cavani doing the usual thing. I think it was like Drogba who kind of perfected this, where you run into the box and then he'll stop, maybe take a step or two back, free up that bit of space. And Cavani's just done that, which, in fairness, that's what quality strikers do, but it should have still been cut out by Lascelles. And he's took a shot, not the cleanest strike. It's bobbled off Lascelles, and I think it was Shaw, and it just come back to him. And again, he scuffed his shot, and because he scuffed it, it just bobbled into the bottom corner. If he gets a clean strike, I think it takes another deflection of one of the defenders and maybe goes out for a corner, throw in, whatever. But yeah, just rolled the luck, and unfortunately, it went against us.
Just unlucky. And I think again though at that point we could have wilted. We could have thought just fallen down. We're exhausted. They've got about £500 million worth of talent on the pitch. You know, we could have really let that get to us and collapsed. And it's just testament to the players that didn't happen. You know, I was so just proud of their response from that point on, because we should have won it at the end, because Murphy did really well. That shot off the post, fine margins. He had a brilliant shot off the post. Came out to Miggy, who'd come on for Fraser about 15 minutes previously. And then De Gea pulls out a very, very good save. So it's at that point where you're thinking, if that goes in, we've won this game, you know. You could see the stadium. The whole stadium would have taken off at that point. It would have gone into outer space, I think. But, yeah, thoughts at that point, Dimmy?
Yeah, I was up. As soon as Miggy hit it, it looked in. I was up. And for De Gea to pull that off, I mean, De Gea's a world-class keeper, like Craig said. That's what he does. But you just thought, geez, it's just not our night. I mean, Murphy's shot hits the inside of the post. If you see the replay, Gale's right there. If the ball falls on a different angle, Gale's there for a tap-in. The ball could also go inside the post in. It went nowhere. Went to Miggy. Miggy hits a perfect shot. De Gea pulls it away from the spider webs. I mean, it's just one of those things you thought, geez, what do we have to do to get that second goal to win the game? You thought that was the moment, and unfortunately, De Gea was there to thwart us.
And this would have been one of the famous wins over Man United. We've beaten them twice out of the last 4 seasons, which has been really good.
Yeah.
At St James's Park, and we have had a few other wins in the past, really. And this would have been a really big one, a really famous and really important one. Dubravka at the end, yeah, he nearly he gave us all a few worried moments, as he tends to do. I think he just thought, nobody's made a massive cock up yet. Let's just let's try and warm the crowd up a bit here. Let's try and get things a bit exciting. But that wasn't nice at all. But yeah,
he's lucky. He's very lucky that Cavani was half asleep, or there was another Man United player there to chip the goal, because that could have been an absolute disaster. And if they'd scored then, that just might have finished me. That might have the new TV that I've just put in front of me here. That might have gone off the wall if that went in.
I think I'd have just gone straight back to bed. I was just been like, that's it. I can't do this anymore. But so the game finished. So we had 30% possession. I actually thought it seemed like we had a lot more than that. We definitely it was 70-30 to Man United, which I was very surprised at. They didn't do anything with that possession.
Nothing with the ball.
We had 8 shots on target to their 4 shots, and we did have some good on target. We did have some good long range efforts. We had the bulk of the chances, and I think there's been unanimous acceptance from everybody, the pundits on Sky in the UK as well, that Newcastle deserved to win that game. And usually I'm not a person who says, I generally think that you get what you deserve. So if you haven't won, it's because you've made some kind of error or there's been something going wrong. But I really feel like we did deserve to win that game. And I just think it was really fine margins that if one of them, any of them would have gone our way, we would have won. And I think that would have been a huge boost and a huge shot on the arm for us. But you might have noticed I haven't talked about the main man yet. So I just felt like we really needed to dedicate a bit of time talking about Joelinton, because I think he's obviously improved massively since Eddie Howe came in. He is unrecognisable from the £40 million striker that we signed from Germany, who came in and just he didn't seem like he could play football some of the time. And I know that he's always had people who have backed him. Our very own Bobby being one of those people who's always seen something in him and supported him. And I think everyone's always wanted him to do well. I don't think there's ever been any question about his work rate. But I've felt lately that he has played well, and that there's been, but that it's been in a bit of an ironic sense sometimes, in that we spent 40 million on this guy who most people thought was an absolute donkey, and now he's playing all right, and everyone's getting excited. But today, he was incredible. He put in a brilliant performance in the centre of midfield. Jamie Carragher said on Sky that he put in there a midfield performance that would have been befitting of any top level sort of defensive midfielder, with his stats, and the stats back that up. He created 3 chances, 4 interceptions. He won possession 11 times. He carried the ball 13 times, and only Kraft made more tackles than him. What's going on here? Is this just a case of good coaching? Or, Dimmy, I want to come Bobby's not here. Dimmy, I'm going to come to you. What is happening with Joelinton?
Well, coaching clearly is one thing. He's playing a different position now. He's not playing as a lone striker with a number 9 shirt. That's obviously one thing. But yeah, he's turned into peak Makalele. I mean, him charging around the park, he looked like the best player on the park today, and that says something when you've got Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno Fernandes. He looked like the best player on the park, and you can just tell every minute that goes by for him playing that position, he's just growing in confidence more and more, and he now realises he's got that ability to receive it from the centre back's turn and go forward, and he's confident in doing that. And he's a massive addition to the team, obviously, and the form that he's in. I mean, sky's the limit for the guy. Maybe we can sell him on for more than 40 million now. Maybe
won't be sending him to Turkey on loan or something like we thought we were going to have to.
No, maybe there's a sell-on value now. So maybe Ashley and his crew are right all along.
I don't think we'd want to be selling him at the current. He's absolutely. But I don't know if you saw the interview as well, Sean Longstaff. So he did an interview with Sean Longstaff at the end, and the interviewer asked a bit of a weird question where he basically said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were this good," which fans kind of say that. Yeah, fans say that kind of thing, but it's a bit of a kind of strange line of question, I think, from a professional reporter to do that. But then Sean Longstaff basically just said that's really disrespectful. We see Joelinton in training all the time. Everyone always wants him on their team because he's so good. And you could see that Joelinton was very, very chuffed with that response from Sean Longstaff. Craig, I want to just ask you, but what do you think about Joelinton? What is going on here? Do we have a genuine world-class midfielder, or is this just kind of is this going to continue, or is this his position now? What's happening?
Ask me the same question after the last game of the season, and I'll give him the answer for the world-class player then. But he is genuinely our best player right now. And would anyone have said that even from the Spurs game when Piff were first finally in charge? No one would have even thought about Joelinton being that good. There were maybe very few glimpses of him doing anything like that when he played out wide. But he's like a beast incarnate right now. He really is. And the thing I love about him is he will cover every blade of grass twice over, still give the ref a bit of a shouting match when things haven't gone his way. I mean, he picked up a yellow card for dissent today because something didn't go his way. But I think everything he does at the minute, it is just turning to gold. There's just one little thing, and that he just needs to add a few extra goals to his game. He doesn't have to get 10, 15 goals a season. If he can contribute to 10 goals, whether that be 5 goals, 5 assists, whatever, then we've definitely got a player on our hands. And the best thing about it? He's a total stark contrast to Alan, because Alan, he'll get the ball to his feet, he'll try and dance around somebody, he'll do a million step overs, and probably confuse himself at times, which we've seen that. Whereas Big J, he'll just get the ball on his feet and he'll just get his head down and he'll charge at you. And it's glorious to see. It really, really is. And long may it continue. And I so hope to answer that question come last game of the season with a big fat yes on that one. And if he keeps going like this, who's to say does he even get a national call-up? I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, if you look at the likes of what's his face for Everton, Richarlison, yeah, he plays for the Brazilian national squad.
If he's playing in the midfield too, I mean, Fred at Man United's probably one of his compatriots who's playing in the same position. Fred was garbage, and Fred doesn't command the pitch like Big Joe does now. And you're right, he's like a steam train. When he runs at you, he's a steam train, Joe.
Yeah. He's a beast.
He's entered cult status already,
Cult,
I think.
yeah.
But it's kind of because cult players are like, like Shola, like they're a bit of like, and Antoine Sibierski got cult status. They're not always the best players. But there's always something about them that we really like. But I think like you could put Nobby Solano in that category as well. But he was a great player, So if you can get somebody who, if Joelinton can become a cult player, but also become a serious player for us as well, then I think we're starting to see why Steve Nixon, the scout, felt he was worth that amount of money. And we're also seeing the benefits of a good coach, a very, very good coach, compared to a coach that basically just didn't know what to do with him or tried to sort of play him in a position that wasn't his position. So I think I'm really excited to see what happens moving forward with Joelinton. And I'm going to start, I think I've been guilty of like not taking this run of form seriously up to now, because I've just kind of felt like, it's Joelinton. We've had 2 years of him falling over and basically just not doing, but maybe he was in the wrong position all the time. He wasn't being properly coached. So it's just going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward for Big Joe. And I think it's safe to say that we're all just hope so badly that this works out for him, because he's a very, very likable character. And if he can be the sort of talisman for this escape act that we're about to embark on, I think that's a good place he'll have in Newcastle United history. So keep going, Joe, and get to that World Cup at the end of this year. That would just be amazing, wouldn't it?
Imagine him starting in the first game for Brazil at the World Cup.
If you were to go to Paddy Power, first game of the season, and said, I want to put $100 on Joelinton going to the World Cup, they would just laugh at you and said, "Nah, sorry, we don't want to give you that bet. The odds are too crazy." But now,
starting as a CDM too.
Yeah, generally, I mean, we're laughing about it, but they're all, like you just said, Fred, who on days like today, he was totally outplayed by Joelinton. And you can guarantee the Brazilian coach or whatever, they're going to be watching players like Fred and everything and see how he's been playing. And if he's looking, hold on, there's Joelinton in Newcastle. He's literally playing out of his skin week in, week out now, in a position that's not even naturally his. And he's outplaying this Fred. Let's give him a chance. Get him in for a friendly, whatever. Even if you call him up to get a bit of experience on the international squad, he might not get a bit of game time. But give the lad his opportunity. I think he deserves it, because the Brazil teams have now, they're not like they were of yesteryear with their superstars and everything like that. They may have the likes of Neymar and whatever, but there's no Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho's anymore. Them players are long gone.
They had Paulinho, who played for Spurs. He was in the Brazil team for a long time, and he's not that dissimilar in some ways. Yeah, he went to China. Yeah. And I think he went to Barcelona on loan, didn't he? But he was kind of much maligned, but he was a similar kind of big, stocky player who had kind of some similar attributes to Joelinton. So Joelinton on the plane to Qatar. That's the Two Under Pods. That's our campaign. Let's get it done.
Get it trending on Twitter.
Get it trending.
#GetJoeToQatar22.
Right, that's brilliant. That's it for part one then. We'll be back after this to look at where this result leaves us and look ahead potentially to the Everton game, if that's going to happen. See you after this. Welcome back. Part two of the Two Under Pod. We've just done the review of the Man United game. So I don't know if there's any point in us doing a preview of Everton, because Newcastle's squad has been absolutely ripped apart. So even before this game, the Man United game, we didn't have any defenders on the bench. We couldn't name a full bench, and there were 2 goalkeepers on the bench. So I believe the rule in the Premier League is you have to have 13 fit players plus a goalkeeper to be able, and you have to fulfill the fixture. So Everton have had their last few games postponed, I think. I don't think they've played for a few weeks because of COVID. Eddie Howe said after the Man United game that we were treading very close to this situation happening. he seemed to want to play the Man United and the Liverpool and the Leicester and the Man City games. Eddie Howe seemed to want to play those games, and I think we've now got 4 games in hand over. I mean, Burnley have now got 4 games in hand over us, so it's a bit of a interesting debate this about how this is going to impact things or what's going to happen. But if we are to go and play Everton, I mean, Manquillo got suspended as well, so presumably unless people recover from COVID or injuries quickly, because the game's in I think 3 days.
Yeah,
it's on Friday
Yeah.
morning our time.
Yeah.
So it just seems like it's inevitable that this is going to get canned. I don't know what if there's been any more news today, or obviously it's been the night in the UK. But Craig, what's your understanding of this at the moment?
Well, I think, to be honest, Eddie Howe and Rafa Benitez are going to work together on this one and say, look, both squads are absolutely depleted here. It wouldn't be fair to put out a weakened team, not only for an advert for the Premier League, because we know how they like to have the big stars out there, but also it just wouldn't be a great spectacle. And it's also mean you're going to players out there who don't have the experience, could get more injuries, and it means even more games suspended and everything else. I think with Manquillo being suspended now, we can actually name a full starting 11 injuries or COVID. That's how bad things have got now. And out of a 25-man squad, that's going to leave 1 goalkeeper, 10 outfield, and 3 on the bench.
Yeah.
Who do you pick?
I think we had 4. I think we had 4 goalkeepers in our 25 squad as well. So if we've got 11 out, I can't see how we're going to field 13 players when we've already had. I think pretty sure Bruce named 4 keepers at the start of the year because we had COVID problems in the squad in August. So look, common sense should prevail, and the game should be called off, which will be perfect for us. Gives us a few more days to recover, potentially get some signings in on January 1 and 2. But who knows? The Premier League are a bit funny with us sometimes.
Do we know if Carl Darlow can play left back?
You can't play goalkeeper, so
not this season anyway.
But hasn't Carl Darlow called COVID like 5 times or something now? What's he doing?
He was in hospital. He was in hospital. Yeah.
Walking around COVID hospitals, kissing everyone or something like that. You know, I know it's Christmas charity and they go around the other type of stuff, but so unlucky with that type of thing. But I know the Everton squad, they're quite bad. They've had a few games called off. I can even say if the Everton game gets called off, maybe the Southampton game as well. I mean, if you think if the game's going to get called off, it'll have to be called off at least 24 hours before. Because if there's anything like the Villa Brighton game, which was called off 2 hours before kickoff. Imagine you've got all of our fans traveling all the way down to the south coast, and they get a text message or an email saying the game's called off 2 hours beforehand. You're going to be slightly pissed off about that. I mean, I've never been out to Southampton. It's got to be an 8-hour drive at least. Got to be.
Yeah, it's about a quarter of the way of Queensland. But yeah, it's a long way by UK standards. Yeah,
it is. But I think that game would have to be called off at least 24 hours beforehand, maybe even more, purely because of the travel time for the fans. Unless they decide that one of them play behind closed doors, which again is something they've talked about. But it's the players that are suffering, not the fans, because of this, and it can't go ahead. The Everton game definitely, and I think if the Everton game goes off, then there's a slim chance the Southampton game goes off too, which again is only going to benefit us because our next Premier League game, if that is the case, isn't until the 16th. So that's for 30th, close to a 3-week window to get players back from injury, COVID, and then you've got from the 1st to say the 14th for the cut-off point to register a player, 2 weeks to sign a player for the Southampton game. If that was to be for the, I don't know who we play after then.
Watford,
Watford at home, And if we've got 2 weeks to get players in, then do it. Absolutely. We could get a hell of a lot of talent within 2 weeks with the checkbook we've got now.
I don't know what you think about this, but I'm not sure whether this has been part of Eddie Howe's kind of master plan to get these games that we're unlikely to get anything out of, just get them out of the way so we don't have to play against any of these big teams again for a while, and then get to this point and he probably knew we were going to have injuries, and he probably had a fair idea that well, he had COVID himself about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. So I don't know whether, because you're right, Craig, I think it would be absolutely perfect for us now if we could just put a little pause, have a little bit of a break up until the FA Cup game, and then get some players in, and then really go for those winnable fixtures from Watford onwards. What's your thoughts on all this, Timmy?
Yeah, I agree. Call it off. Call off the Everton game. Call off the Southampton game, and give us 2.5 weeks. I think now that you've mentioned that point, I haven't thought of that. That's actually quite a good point, because if you think about it, before those games against City, Liverpool, and Man United, you thought very unlikely to get any points. If any points, we might get 1 out of the 3. So we've got 1 out of the 3. Playing them later on is not going to benefit us, because fixture congestion only helps their squads with way more talent than us. So it might help us in that sense, and also it might backfire on your Burnleys and your Watfords, because their squads aren't deep, and if they're playing 3 games a week for 3 or 4 weeks, that's going to catch it up to them as well. So the ideal scenario would be, I hope obviously first of all everyone's healthy, but a few more players get COVID and we can get the Everton game and Southampton game postponed, and then reassess for Cambridge for FA Cup.
Would you rather be, so I'll ask you, Craig, would you rather be in Burnley's position where they've got 4 games in hand, or on the same points, or would you rather be in Newcastle's position where we've played those games, but we've played a lot of the big teams all in one go, and we've got a kind of fixture list coming up?
I'm happy the way it's rolled out, to be honest, because Burnley, they were always going to play those teams, whether it's back end of the season, the squeeze an extra game midweek to make up the deficit in games played or anything like that, which is only going to benefit us, because they're then going to play more games in a shorter space of time. And the other thing, I was actually thinking about this as well. So we've got 4 games on Burnley right now. Now, if we take a star defender in Tarkowski, that's 4 games. They don't have him for 4 extra games, which that would benefit us massively on that one. I'm not saying we will sign him, but I do think that could be a real big bonus for us and an absolute killer for them. In the way their chairman was talking about it the other day, I think he's going to go. Whether he'll come to us or West Ham, I don't know. But if they lose him and they play 4 games less, because Burnley aren't an attractive proposition regardless of where you play in world football, I would have thought. And if they're in the relegation zone as well, that makes them even less of an attractive proposition. They don't have any big name stars. They don't have a huge stadium. They're not a big name, even probably outside of the UK. I can't imagine they've got much of a fan base or anything like that. So if they lose some players in the window, which I think they will do, as all clubs will, I think they're going to struggle more, because they're not really going to be able to replace those.
Yeah, and there is a tendency as well, isn't there, to look at what other teams are doing, and we've spoken about this before as well. If we look after ourselves, and if we can win 9 or 10 of our remaining games, we should have enough, and we shouldn't have to be doing the depressing thing where you're hoping that somebody scores a goal against Burnley or Watford, or you don't get upset because Southampton have beaten West Ham, you know that kind of thing. So I remember when we did get relegated, and we were looking at Wigan's results, and it was like, this is just so soul destroying. I think I hope that this will be the last time we have a season like this where we have to do that, and with the new owners, that should happen. We shouldn't be having to rely on other teams like this. But it's definitely a bit of an interesting season, and I think there are questions about. I don't know what the Premier League could have maybe done differently, if they could have just done a break for everybody. But I think there are questions about the integrity of the league, and it'll just be interesting to see how it shakes out. And it'll just depend on what happens, like between now and the end of the season. I think is to say who had the best part of the deal or not. But it's just been very interesting the way it's panned out. And I'm not upset at all that we've got these games out of the way, these difficult games. I think that especially the way we're performing against Man United, I feel confident, and we are close to January now. I know you boys did the January transfer window sort of podcast last week, so yeah. Any final thoughts there?
There is actually. Wilson's injury. I know there's never a good time to get injury. But I think these injuries actually come at a very good time for us, because it now means we have to get another striker in. Whereas maybe we're probably going to focus on getting a centre back, a midfielder, a winger maybe. But now we have to get a striker. We have to. I think there's some players out there which we're thinking, there could be some game time in it for me. I could be getting a big step up in pay or whatever, and pay them what they want, because at the end of the day, it's worth it. As I mentioned a while ago, the financial ramifications are dropping down the leagues, especially for the money we could be spending over the next few weeks, could hurt us big time. So Mandy, Jamie, Piff, get your checkbook out and do what you need to do, because like I say, the injury, it's come at a bad time, because there's no good time for an injury, but it's towards a good part of the season for us. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it does. And I think as well, because it might help us get the Everton game postponed. That's what I thought about Mankio's yellow card as well. I actually thought...
Perfect.
I don't know whether I'm giving them too much credit here, but I thought if they've done this on purpose to just try and tip the scales to try and get this game postponed, I don't know.
Can't be that smart.
Can't be that smart, can they? Right, I think that's it. That's pretty much all I've got time for. You can follow us at TuneUnderPod. You can check the website, tuneunder.com, and you can like and subscribe on YouTube, and we've also got a Facebook page as well. So please continue to do that. We like the engagement. We like questions coming in. We'll be back. Well, it depends on what happens with the Everton game, but we'll definitely be back at some point, probably before or just into the new year. So hope you boys have a great new year, and we'll speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.
You too, man. See you later.
See you, Jack. See you guys.
Bye.